Everybody. It's End Times Talk. How are you doing this morning? Oh, it's really early, and I woke up and I haven't even bothered putting myself together. I'm over here looking like Sloth from the Goonies. I'll tell you, just gonna have the camera off today. But yeah. So I put a bunch of stuff together to talk to you about, and the new numbers for Michigan, at least, have come out for the H3N2 Superclade K, which is what um what they're saying is the K flu or the super flu or whatever. Um, Give me a moment here. Let me make sure it's bigger here. So you can see this is for week 51, your weekly disease report for the week ending December 20th. The last one we did was from the 13th, and this is from the 20th, 2025. And you can see how much the numbers, continue to be similar from the pandemic level. It did increase a little bit in 2022. Then it began to decrease a little bit in 2023 and increase into 2024. But now, if you look at the numbers for 2025, they're quite a bit larger than the 388,000 that there was last time subtotal, even more than 2024. And again, around this time last year, things were pretty rough. Remember, a lot of people getting sick. You can go back to, a year ago in my videos, and we were covering this stuff then. But it seems to be a much bigger problem now than what it was before. Even with gastrointestinal illness, it's jumped up quite a bit from the beginning of the pandemic, even into the middle of the pandemic, end of the pandemic, 101,000 plus. But now it's just at right now for 2025, 143, almost 144,000. So this is just for the state of Michigan here. This isn't for any other state. And Michigan isn't the worst state, that it's out there. I know some similar states that are out there that are as bad as Michigan are like Texas and Colorado, Louisiana, but in New York, but New York City especially is getting hit hard with this stuff more than anybody else. So just kind of throwing the numbers out at you from 2021 and 2022, things have gone up quite a bit, even just for there not being anything declared or anything like that. Wanted to show you guys that. Um, Move forward here. Hold on. There's an article right here. Super flu variant spreads to 34 countries as hospitalizations surge. A newly emerged influenza strain dubbed the super flu has spread across at least 34 countries and is driving record-breaking, right there, record-breaking hospitalizations in the United Kingdom and Canada. I would say probably the same in some places in America, not all places in America, but some, prompting urgent warnings from health authorities as the holiday season approaches. And we've talked about that holiday season being very key uh, during this time, with the way that they plan things out in their war game scenarios. Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and Christmas, New Year's seem to be, the tipping points, if you will. The influenza A H3N2 subclade K variant has rapidly become the dominant flu strain in multiple countries since August 2025. I would say it even goes back as far as June and July, is where things really started to kick off. It says, according to the World Health Organization, the strain now accounts for nearly 90% of H3N2 viruses tested in the United States since September, while Canada reported a 71% surge in flu cases and nearly doubled hospitalizations in just 1 week ending December 13th. The NHS declares worst case scenario. I find this kind of interesting here. The United Kingdom's National Health Service issued a flu jab SOS. You know, do what you want, but ain't nobody around here getting no jabby jabby. Hold on one second, get no drink of water. I'm a little hoarse. So in early November, they did that. Now we're in December. As flu activity began rising earlier than usual, with cases triple those seen at the same time last year. And there we go. We've been telling you that. We've been warning people of that. It says here by early December, the situation had escalated dramatically, with NHS England reporting an average of 2,660 patients hospitalized daily with flu, the highest ever recorded for this time of year. You guys hearing that? And that's ever. And a 55% increase from the previous week. Hold on, I'm getting a drink again. The number of patients in hospital with flu is extremely high for this time of year. And that's the thing that's kind of the dead giveaway for me is that this is such an early flu season and it's ramped up so quickly. I remember even back during the pandemic days, 2020 and 2021 and all that jazz. It was around in December. People were sick, but it wasn't nothing like it is right now. And we can even go back and look at the numbers. The numbers of COVID-19 infected at this time were ridiculously low compared to just the influenza. You know what I mean? And so they were trying to say that, that the influenza was COVID-19, I'm sure, and we're using those numbers from the influenza and flu like illness to promote their agenda. And I'm concerned it's right around the corner again with everything that's happening. I mean, can I say this? I don't know if y'all remember Rahm Emanuel, but he actually stated that never let a good crisis go to waste. Rahm Emanuel, who was the guy out of Chicago that working for the Obama administration eventually, said never let a good crisis go to waste. Do you think they'll let something like this that's working this well for them go to waste? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. The number of patients in hospital with flu is extremely high for this time of year, stated Professor Meghana Pandit, NHS National Medical Director. Even worse, it continues to rise, and the peak is not in sight yet. And that's what I've been telling people. We're not even close to the tippy top of this thing. It's not even plateaued yet. So the NHS faces an extremely challenging few weeks ahead. UK Health Security Agency data showed flu hospitalizations rose to a rate of 10.05 per 100,000 in the week ending in December 7th, up to 8.77 per 100,000 the previous week. So it's gaining traction quickly. It went from 8.77 per 100,000 to 10.5 per 100,000. Canada has seen influenza cases skyrocket with 11,646 new cases detected for the week ending in December 13th, representing a 27.7 positivity rate. The hospitalization rate jumped to 6.2 per 100,000, up from 3.9. So it hasn't doubled, but it's close to doubling from the week before, with 186 flu outbreaks reported across 44 regions in 11 provinces and territories. There was a subscriber that we had, and good morning, everybody just joining us. Hope you're doing well. I'm over here just trying to wake up and going through this information. But we had a subscriber talking about how like even the hospitals were like, clearing floors and stuff because there was, people that were coming down with the flu and they're treating it real seriously in Canada, that's for sure. I'm going to say this, that, one thing that bothered me tremendously with what's recently happened in Canada was the killing of those ostriches. And they were working towards, making cures for different things, using the ostrich eggs. And what's interesting is all of those ostriches were super docile. They were friendly to humans. They even had their own names and stuff for these birds. Like, and the government just came in and killed them. And it's because they were threatened by the information. You know, um, there's oh man, I was gonna show something, but I'm not going to right now because I'm not around for the morning. Um, there's all sorts of things you can do to combat this stuff, and if you want to know some good remedies, email me and I'll send you the name of something that you can get that'll really take care of business that I've recently found out. I'm not going to share it on my YouTube, but if you email me at end times talk 777, I'd be more than or end times talk 777 at gmail.com. I'd be more than willing to share what I found out with you. And everybody swears by it. So, and uh, it's become kind of the standard for this sort of stuff, this flu stuff. But anyways, it shows that Canada was threatened by it, and it's like they want people to get sick. Why would they want a cure? You can't take control if there's a cure for something that people can go to that has nothing to do with the government, the Canadian government. So, anyways, it says here Alberta has been particularly hard hit, with hospital emergency rooms seeing a flood of influenza patients. Provincial data showed 650 individuals hospitalized due to the virus as of December 19th, a significant increase from 360 patients. So again, it's pretty near doubled. Uh, patients on increased from 360 patients on December 13. Calgary has borne the brunt of Alberta's surge, accounting for nearly half of the province's 5,996 confirmed cases as of December 13, with 617 hospitalizations, 38 ICU admissions, and 23 deaths. Now in America, it's 4.6 million infected, and then they're saying like 46,000 hospitalizations and almost 2,000 people dead, with three children uh, that had three child fatalities. So, I can't tell you how this is happening. I can't tell you what exactly this is. I can't tell you any of that. But what I can tell you is something's going on. I have my own theories about it, and it's not the status quo. I can tell you that. But something's brewing, and they're going to use this to implement their end game. That's what I'm concerned about. Give me a moment here. Now they're telling you to go get your vaccine, but right here it says the subclade K variant emerged in June 2025, months after manufacturers had been directed on which strains to target in the 2025-2026 Northern Hemisphere flu vaccines. And I've shown you even in Peru how this stuff is going on. So I don't know why they keep saying Northern Hemisphere, because it's the Southern Hemisphere too. But I've shown you in the last, if you just watch the last couple of lives I've done on this stuff, the information is stacking up. It says here the genetic evolution represents, and I hate that word evolution, but the genetic evolution represents, I'll just say the genetic mutation represents a significant divergence from the vaccine strain, with the virus accumulating several amino acid changes in its hemagglutinin protein. Now, what's funny is, I'm going to play a clip, and I think it has something very close to what I just read that I have just sitting here, where Robert Redfield talks about how. Let me see if I can find it, if I even have it still. I think this is where he talks about, I can, just a couple of changes to some amino acids or something like that. I'll play it real quick. Here it is.
I'm obviously most worried about bird flu. Right now, it takes 5 amino acid change for it to be effectively infecting humans. That's a pretty heavy species barrier, but this virus is already now in 26 mammal species, as you saw most recently, cattle. But in the laboratory, I could make it highly infectious for humans in months, because it's been published.
So that, yeah, that's exactly what, I'm talking about right there. Um, right here it says the genetic mutation or evolution represents a significant divergence from the vaccine strain, with the virus accumulating several amino acid changes. I wonder if that happened in a lab. I wonder if that happened in a lab. It says right here, with the virus accumulating several amino acid changes in its hemagglutinin protein. So, I mean, you just heard Robert Redfield, ex-director of the CDC, saying in a lab in just a couple of months, he can make it highly infectious. So I'm wondering, are they going to use this now that it's within the public system? I mean, it's running rampant. Can they take it and make it worse in a lab and then re-release it? Put it in some new jabby and put it out there. And so people really this thing really starts to kick off even more. It's just a thought. It's just a thought, but you heard him say it with your own mouth with his own mouth, that he can change the amino acid structure to, just the bird flu itself. So why couldn't they do it with the subclade K from H3N2? All right. So just something to think about. It says right here, however, preliminary vaccine effectiveness data from Europe offers some reassurance. Yeah, I'm not even going to read that because, jabby is a joke. Um, it says right here, look at this third paragraph. If there's ever a year to get a flu vaccine, this is the year, said Scott Hensley, a microbiologist and influenza vaccine scientist at the University of Pennsylvania. And I've shown you a lot of their agenda on white paper, how they're saying this is all about vaccine equity. And what they mean by vaccine equity has everything to do with making sure everybody gets vaccines this time around. That's what it's mainly about. It's about making sure that there's enough vaccines to go around. And I've been watching that show after I mentioned, Revelations of Jesus Christ, the show that he did, and I still haven't finished it because I've been taking the time to watch this show called Utopia, not the American version with John Cusack, but the British version. It's a whole lot different, and there's, instead of one season, there's two seasons, and the whole entire thing. And spoiler alert here, if you're gonna watch it, I'd turn this off right now, but I'm gonna give you a rough gist of what I'm finding out so far, because I don't want to have any bias as I'm watching any of the videos that I want to watch, but I felt that I should watch this show first to know what it's about as I go forward with this video from Revelations of Jesus Christ channel. It's all about uh, this sickness that they're using, that's like a flu sickness. And the goal is and I'm talking about a TV show here. This is for entertainment purposes only, okay? But they're talking about how using this flu that's been, and it's funny because there's a key point in the second season where a scientist discovers that the flu that's happening in that time is very similar to a past flu that took place. Can anybody say COVID-19? But they're using the same stuff from that for this one, but it's all about, like, they're calling it the Russian flu. In this show, they're calling it the Russian flu, and then they're promoting this Russian vaccine and making sure that there's enough vaccine to go around to everybody. Everybody. Um, you know, so it's yeah, and I'm gonna bring up something. That's a good point. And Soini, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that name. I apologize if I botched that. Give me a moment here. I'm gonna pull this up. My computer's so slow. Please be patient with me. But in this, I'm gonna try to talk about this show while I'm doing this. But in this TV show, they are trying to make sure that everybody um, gets this vaccine. They're trying to make sure everybody gets this vaccine. Hold on one second. I'm gonna try to pull this to here. Okay. So um Yeah, that's the goal. And so the whole goal in the show Utopia, and remember this is for entertainment purposes only, is to make the whole world sterile. That's the goal. Because they believe there's too many people on the planet, and that's kind of where it's all going. I haven't finished the show. I'm almost done with the second season, but that's a rough gist of what they're trying to do with that show Utopia. With the British version, I have not seen the American version yet, which I do plan to watch as well, because I think there's always little differences and things like that. But the original Utopia came out in, like, I think it was 2013, 2014, and then the American Utopia show came out in 2020. But anyways, I'm going to show you this here in light of what Anne, I'm just going to call you Anne. So I'm sorry if I'm botching your name here, but she's saying chemtrails extreme in Central Florida. It is known they are releasing. Uh, you can see her comment there, and I agree. I absolutely agree. I don't know. Uh, what it is they're releasing. I don't know what it is they're releasing, but it's something. There's something going on. I don't know if it's frequency. I don't know if it's toxins. I don't know if it's whatever. But it's leading to something. It's about the end game here. So hold on one second, and I'll play this. And if you have not subscribed to Decoding China, please do. Decoding China will give you up-to-date information as to what's actually happening in China. They do a really good job, really credible source. And with that being said, we'll just watch a little bit of this information. It's similar to what they've said in the past, but it's getting worse. So I want you to see this because, like before in the COVID-19 pandemic, it all started in China and then it moved over here. And this started back in, October, November. It was getting bad in China. And now that we're getting into December, it's really ramping up in China. And I think what they're seeing in China, what we're seeing in China is what it's going to be like in America, UK, Australia, Canada, all these places. I think so. You're getting a sneak peek of what it's about to be like everywhere else as you're seeing what's happening in China, because I think it originated from China. That's my opinion. Here we go.
Here we go. Rain experiment, poisoning and spreading plague, burnt smell. Lingers across China, entire families infected, virus rampant, major outbreak erupting, massive underground mosquitoes emerge in Beijing snow. In the depths of winter, this is what people are seeing. Mosquitoes. They appear to be migrating, crawling en masse across the snow. It is deeply unsettling, a scene that runs counter to decades of lived experience in northern China, where winter has always meant the disappearance of mosquitoes. The footage spread rapidly online, triggering shock, disbelief, and growing anxiety. Soon after, so-called experts stepped forward with an explanation. The species is identified as Culex molestus, commonly known as the underground house mosquito.
I do want to show you something real quick while they're on the subject of mosquitoes, and I'm just going to add this. We'll come back to this, okay? But I want to show you this clip that I've had for a while. This is from the Bill Gates YouTube, and it's called Gates Notes. And this is a video that Bill Gates put out. So with this stuff about mosquitoes being said, watch this 1-minute clip. So that was Bill Gates putting that stuff out there. So with that, Just because they're bringing up mosquitoes on this, I wanted to show you that, there's plans. I think, even in the spring and summer, there's plans. So don't think we're out of the woods just as the cold season starts, so check this video out.
According to these explanations, the mosquito is highly adaptive, extremely cold resistant, aggressive in biting humans, and notorious for continuous reproduction without seasonal breaks. Rather than calming public fears, this explanation intensified them. Some people asked, this has never been seen before. Why is it now appearing in such dense numbers, crawling openly across snow in Beijing? Why has this phenomenon emerged only in recent years, and particularly in the period following the pandemic? The unease deepened as residents across multiple regions in China reported seeing drones flying at night, often at low altitude, spraying unknown liquids into the air. Videos and eyewitness accounts place these activities in Beijing, Liaoning, Shanghai, Guangdong, and more than a dozen other provinces and cities. Simultaneously, a persistent, acrid odor spread through the air in many locations for days on end. Residents described it as the smell of burning plastic.
I want to say this too, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but it also helps the channel not get in trouble. But the thing is that I've woken up myself in Michigan, and in the area where I live, you don't smell stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it's been smelling odd. There's like a fog in the morning, even though it's cold. Like I'm telling you, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the chemtrails that are getting sprayed are they're dispersing quicker. It's like it's heavier material, whatever they're spraying. And I mean, I watched a plane spray right in front of me, and I want to get a time lapse of it sometime with my phone. But they spray, and just moments later it dissipates, and it's like it's not even there. And I mean, you see what they're capable of when you see like these grids. Like I was just shown a picture from my buddy in Iowa. My buddy Lucas in Iowa showed me, this just absolute checkered grid pattern over his house, and it was like so thick it was like a cloud. And this stuff is all man-made, and so this stuff settles into areas, and or they're spraying it with drones and things like that. But I mean, this could very well be a part of what's going on, like a way that they're dispersing this stuff. So, I just wanted to add that to that.
Scorched rubber, or even bitter almonds. People searched desperately for the source. They checked kitchens, pipelines, windows, ventilation shafts, and drainage systems. Nothing explained the smell. Yet despite the scale and consistency of these reports, no clear or detailed official explanation was issued. The silence itself became a catalyst for suspicion. Against this backdrop, mainland Chinese media unexpectedly revived reports on the historical crimes of Japan's Unit 731 during the fascist era, particularly its so-called rainfall experiments. According to these accounts, Unit 731 used aircraft to disperse bacterial culture fluids over open areas, releasing pathogens like rain. Victims were reportedly bound in place, forced to receive the fallout directly, then transported away for observation as their symptoms and disease progression were meticulously recorded until death. For many observers, the parallel was chilling. It raised an unavoidable question. What exactly are today's drones spraying, and for what purpose? Meanwhile, China's public health situation has continued to deteriorate. A wave of influenza A, H3N2 infections has swept across multiple regions. In Beijing alone, reported infections have surpassed 12 million, representing an increase of more than 120% compared with the final week of November.
It's interesting too because 112, or wait, did they say 112 million? Let's rewind that just to be sure.
China's public health situation has continued to deteriorate. A wave of influenza A, H3N2 infections has swept across multiple regions. In Beijing alone, reported infections have surpassed 12 million.
So 12 million. In America, it's 4.6 million nationwide. And so just in Beijing alone, it's 12 million. So that tells you where we're headed. Like, if we pay close attention, and we use our brains that God gave us, and we stop believing everything that we're just being told by the mainstream, especially the CDC and the who absolutely loves you and cares about you enough to give you a vaccine that, you know, just does everything good for you. All right. You can't take them at their word. Look at the numbers. You know, if right now at this point in time, 4.6 million infected in America, but at this time in China, 12 million infected in Beijing alone, shows you how bad it's going to get in America if it continues. And there's nothing to stop this right now. All right. Except for certain preventatives and things like that. And if you email me at End Times Talk, all lowercase, End Times Talk, 3 numbers, 777, End Times Talk 777 at gmail.com. I'll give you the name of something that you can take that's going to knock it out. All right. I will. All right. Hold on. We'll continue with this.
Representing an increase of more than 120% compared with the final week of November. Hospitals in Beijing, Shanghai, and other major cities are overcrowded, with patients filling clinics and emergency departments. Numerous schools have been forced to suspend classes en masse. Infection rates and deaths are surging. Doctors warn that this flu virus is highly likely to cause severe complications in children, such as myocarditis and necrotizing encephalitis. Industry insiders point out that this strain has undergone 7 mutations.
7.
The reported death of a 3-year-old child in Henan from influenza further intensified public fear, yet authorities offered no additional explanation beyond vague statements. At the household level, personal accounts reveal.
And that's what we've been getting in America is vague statements from the CDC and the WHO. And it's the thing that I've always talked about on my channel that you got to understand is when they make a big fuss out of something and it's in the mainstream and it's everywhere and they're pounding you with it. All right. It usually is not that big of a deal. But when they really are just like, they don't care, and they're just letting it go. And, you know, especially with them, like, and I pointed this out last live, especially with them trying so hard to prepare for the next pandemic and them not taking this seriously, lets you know something's up. Like they have gone above and beyond. All right. When it comes to war game scenarios to prepare for the next pandemic. I mean, you know, even Bill Gates, you know, said that, you know, we're going to have to prepare for the next.
So we, you know, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, you know, I'd say is will get attention this time.
So, I mean, they're so worried about the next pandemic, but when things are right in your face like this and they're not telling you about it, it shows you that something's going on. It's not the popular topic on the internet right now. It's not all the hype. You know what I mean? And it's very, very little is known about this so far. Like there are so many people that I've talked to personally in my local area that are like, oh, I had no idea this was even going on. Yeah, because it's not being pushed out there. And that's what's freaky when the numbers are almost 5 times higher than that of the COVID-19 pandemic when it comes to flu-like illness. And I've shown you, I'll show you real quick just to be on the safe side. Give me a moment here. I'll come back to that. Don't worry. Right here, this is the new numbers. All right, just for the December 20th. And we're on the 24th already. We're already halfway to the next report coming out. Okay. And this is what they're showing us. This is the pandemic level. Okay. Even just right here. The numbers have continued to go up all the way to 2025, where it's literally 5 times now. It's 5 times what the pandemic level was for flu-like disease and influenza. If you look at influenza here, okay, hold on, let me make sure this is big here. It is, okay. If you go to influenza here, all right, you go over to flu-like disease, which is the first one, all the way down to 2021, it's 86,081. But influenza, confirmed influenza, is 2,949. So the flu-like disease, they don't even know what it is, but they're just going to tell you what they think it is, and they're going to give you something in hopes because it's a practice. Most of it's a practice. They're going to practice on you. They don't know for sure. They're just taking a wild guess. I have watched doctors use that, like, what is it? The main thing on the internet's like, MD or whatever.com or Dr. MD, like the main thing that people go to for, like, what do I have? What am I sick with? You know what I mean? I've watched doctors go to that for information right in front of me in the past. You know what I mean? So they don't know what they're doing. They're just practicing, right? But if you go down to 2025 and you can watch the numbers go up, they go up in 2022 a little bit. They come down a little bit in 2023. That's when the pandemic was ending. And then 2024, last year, it went up quite a bit, and they stopped reporting the numbers in November. I remember they were trying to hide it. They were talking about it in the news in October, but then when it came November, they stopped talking about it. I wonder if that's when it took a decrease, and it wasn't going to be what they thought it was going to be. But if you come all the way to 2025 at the very end, okay, with confirmed influenza and flu-like disease, we're at subtotal 414,363. That is 5 times the numbers of 89,000 what was happening during the next pandemic, and they're not even talking about it. If they're so worried about the next pandemic and preparing for the next pandemic, this shows me they want this thing to spread. That's what it shows me. All right. And I'm just shooting it to you straight. I'm calling it as I see it here. Okay. Now back to this information.
Feel the human cost behind the statistics. Families describe members falling ill one after another. Some suffered fevers as high as 39 degrees Celsius, remaining unconscious or delirious for up to 20 hours before being rushed to hospital. Common symptoms include persistent dry coughs, severe throat pain described as a scraping sensation, insomnia, joint pain, and profound fatigue. Many report that medical examinations failed to produce clear diagnoses even as their conditions worsened. U.S. virologist Dr. Lin Xiaoxu said this H3N2 strain has stronger immune evasion and transmissibility, causing widespread outbreaks globally, but research evidence does not indicate greater lethality. However, the situation in China is different because COVID is still circulating. In November this year, official data showed nearly 14,000 confirmed COVID cases nationwide. Overall, the new flu season, combined with ongoing COVID, likely explains cases of white lung. Beyond acute illness, a growing number of people say their overall health has deteriorated markedly in recent years. They speak of hair loss, premature graying, memory decline, slowed reactions, cardiac discomfort, and prolonged feelings of depression and exhaustion. These complaints, widely echoed online, suggest a shared psychological and physical strain that extends well beyond isolated cases. From mosquitoes crawling across snow in the dead of winter, to drones spraying unknown substances under cover of darkness, to rapidly spreading influenza and prolonged official silence, a chain of abnormal phenomena is stacking one atop another.
So I think you get the picture. I think you get the picture of what's going on here, especially with China. And it's kind of like, I'll put it to you this way, like there was always a saying here in Michigan that like whatever is going on in Flint, Michigan is the way that the rest of the United States is going to be like in 10 years. And that's pretty true for the most part, but like they say the same thing about California too. And they say the same thing about New York. There's all these little hot spots that are like, ahead of the pack when it comes to how things are going to be, And so it just it's alarming, but it's nothing to be fearful about. Just take precautions, wash your hands, and take certain things that will boost the immune system. You know what I mean? And I've gone over those in the past lives, and shown little things here and there that you can do. But it's one of those things I got to be careful talking about because you give out medical information and they can hit you with it if they don't agree. And so. But I'll just say this: C, D3, and we'll say Z. Okay, I hope people know what I'm saying when I'm saying what those letters are when it comes to the terms of like. And I'll spread this apart a little bit and try to get it away from those letters. Vitamins, right? Because I care about you. I'll risk it. I want to make sure people are okay. But there's also a new one that I'm not going to share on this live on YouTube because they'll definitely get at me for it. Maybe I'll do this. Hold on 1 second. I'll try to do this. Give me a moment because I care about you. And you're going to have to pay close attention and pause it, and remember, this is right around the 41-minute mark ish. I don't know how it's going to translate to YouTube, but on StreamYard, it says I'm at almost the 42-minute mark. And I'll take myself off camera. I got my hood up and all that stuff. It's really early morning, but I'll show you this. I'm going to clean my office here, right? I'm going to clean my office. Okay. All right. And that's because I care about you. I showed you me cleaning my office. And people swear by it. People swear by keeping your office clean. People swear by it. And so a lot of success with that. All right. Because I care about you. Anyways, on to other news. Give me a moment here. New Year's Eve celebrations all over the place are getting canceled. Places like Paris, Tokyo, and Belgrade call off events following FBI bust of alleged LA bombing plot. And there was also a plot in Louisiana and New Orleans as well. The same group, the Turtle Island something. But, you can kind of see that, there's all these places calling off their New Year's celebrations that are coming up. I know that New York is not. But, Paris, Tokyo, Belgrade, and Serbia. So, they're really going for it here. I put together some information that I'm just going to read off. This isn't the actual article I'm showing, but I'm just going to read this off. As of December 24th, 2025, that's today, multiple sources, including federal announcements, historical incidents, and expert statements, highlight elevated security risks for New Year's Eve celebrations on December 31st, 2025. This summary compiles reported foiled plots, past attacks, ongoing assessments, and warnings to promote awareness and safety. The information draws from public FBI and DHS reports, congressional testimony, and related analysis, emphasizing potential threats from extremists, lone actors, and border-related vulnerabilities. An investigative examination of recent political developments in New York City, including claims surrounding the mayor-elect and perceived risks of extremism, is also included to assess how such factors might contribute to heightened vulnerabilities for major attacks. Additionally, an analysis of Iranian threats involving potential sleeper cell activation tied to recent conflicts and memos is incorporated to evaluate escalation risks. A significant threat specifically targeting New Year's Eve 2025 was disrupted by federal authorities. The Turtle Island Liberation Front, or TILF, T-I-L-F, identified as a far-left, anti-capitalist, anti-government extremist group with pro-Palestinian affiliations, sometimes linked to an offshoot called the Order of the Black Lotus, planned coordinated bombings in Southern California. The plot involved improvised explosive devices such as pipe bombs placed in backpacks aimed at least 5 locations associated with 2 U.S. companies in the greater Los Angeles and Orange County areas, detailed in a handwritten document titled Operation Midnight Sun. The attacks were scheduled for simultaneous detonation. And you got to have training to be doing this sort of stuff. Like, this isn't just something that pops up out of nowhere. The attacks were scheduled for simultaneous detonation at midnight to camouflage explosions amid fireworks displays. Subsequent phases included targeting immigration and customs enforcement agents, ICE, vehicles with additional pipe bombs in early 2026. So that wasn't just one attack, there was multiple attacks planned. The FBI, in collaboration with the Joint Terrorism Task Force, including the Los Angeles Police Department and Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, arrested 4 individuals: Audrey Eileen Carroll, Zachary Aaron Page, Dante Gaffield, and Tina Lay on December 12, 2025, during a bomb assembly and testing operation in the Mojave Desert, just outside there in California. Hold on, I'm getting a drink here. It says here, charges include conspiracy and possession of unregistered destructive devices with potential for additional counts. The fifth person, Micah James Legnon, a former Marine, and remember that Marine or whatever, supposedly Marine that attacked that Mormon church down in southern Michigan, and he drove right into it and started shooting it up. But here again, you have a former Marine connected to the network, was arrested in Louisiana for a separate violent plan and for threatening agents during a search, though not directly tied to the New Year's Eve bombings. No devices were deployed and no injuries occurred, but he was planning something for New Year's Eve. And, you know, the left political movement in America has called upon people who are military, who are you know, anti-government and things like that, to start to work, you know, towards violence, you know, and we've seen those calls to violence from the left. It says here, officials, including Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, described the potential impact as massive and horrific, underscoring that the disruption prevented a high casualty event. This remains the primary public reported foiled threat for December 31st, 2025. But another relevant example, though, from 2023 illustrates the use of holidays for targeted attacks. Mikhail, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how I'm going to say this, but I'm going to try Chikikvishvili, leader of the Maniac Murder Cult, which is a satanic acceleration cult, a satanic accelerationist cult, a neo-Nazi group with satanic and white supremacist elements, solicited an undercover FBI agent to execute a mass poisoning in New York City. The plan involved dressing as Santa Claus and distributing candy laced with ricin derived from castor beans to Jewish children and racial minorities, focusing on Brooklyn schools. The attack was intended for New Year's Eve to maximize chaos. With alternatives for Jewish holidays, if delayed, instructions included anonymous purchases, post-attack disposal of the costume, and placing poisoned items in apartments. The scheme was intercepted in the planning stage with no materials acquired or harm caused. Chikikvishvili was indicted in 2024 on charges of soliciting hate crimes, mass violence, and distributing instructions for explosives. There you go, explosives and poisons. Arrested in Moldova via Interpol in July 2024, he was extradited to the U.S. in May 2025. So he's here in the U.S. now, and pleaded guilty in November 2025 in Brooklyn federal court, facing up to 18 years in prison. I'm sorry, you should be put away for life planning that sort of crap. The group has been linked, and watch, he doesn't ever go to jail or nothing like that. They can say he's going to, but he's probably some, you know, FBI spook or CIA spook. But it says here, the group has been linked to other incidents such as January 2025 school shooting in Nashville and attacks in Turkey and Romania. That's the Maniac Murder Cult, the Satanic Accelerationist group. While neutralized, this case highlights risk from extremist networks inspiring holiday-specific violence. A deadly incident earlier in 2025 demonstrates the vulnerability of holiday crowds. On January 1st, 2025, shortly after midnight following New Year's Eve celebrations, Shamsud Din Jabbar, I mean, it tells you what they're about, a 42-year-old U.S. citizen from Houston, Texas, conducted a vehicle ramming attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, French Quarter, driving a rented white Ford F-150 Lightning pickup truck. He bypassed barricades and struck pedestrians, killing 14 to 15 people and injuring 35 to 57 others. Jabbar then engaged in a shootout with police using an AR-15 style rifle and handgun before being killed by officers. Jabbar posted videos declaring allegiance to ISIS shortly before the attack, and an ISIS flag was found in the vehicle. ISIS claimed responsibility through its Al-Naba publication, promoting vehicle rammings as a tactic for mass casualties. No accomplices were confirmed, of course, though investigations explored potential connections to unrelated events like a Las Vegas explosion later that day. The attack occurred amid large crowds for New Year's and the Sugar Bowl football game, with criticism directed at inadequate barricade deployment. This event has directly influenced 2025 security protocols, increasing focus on vehicle threats at gatherings like Times Square. New Year's Eve has historically seen numerous failed plots rather than successful large-scale attacks in the 2015-2016 period. All right, this is 10 years ago specifically. ISIS-linked schemes were disrupted in Turkey, suicide bombings in Ankara, Germany, and Munich train stations, the U.S. a knife attack in Rochester, New York, and Brussels, Belgium, leading to partial event cancellations for 2025. No additional specific credible threats beyond the Turtle Island Liberation Front plot have been publicly announced for U.S. events like Times Square, which expects around 1 million attendees. However, the FBI and DHS described the threat environment as elevated, with risk from lone actors, small groups, domestic violence extremists, or those inspired by foreign terrorist organizations like ISIS or Al Qaeda. International responses include scaled-back celebrations in cities like Paris, in Paris, France, thwarting 6 terror plots in 2025 overall. Sorry, I'm just stretching real quick. I apologize, I had to stretch. Monitoring of online forums, including the dark web, shows trends towards cybercrime, e.g. ransomware and AI-driven tools rather than physical attacks, but agencies continue surveillance for emerging risks. And we just saw this thing in San Francisco where San Francisco went completely dark. Right? Complete blackout. So, I mean, I think stuff is brewing right now. I really do. Like, there's something bigger brewing. It could be incremental. It could be just all of a sudden an abrupt change. But things are changing in America for sure. Give me a moment here. Prominent figures have highlighted imminent risks. Ohio Sheriff Richard Jones from Butler County has stated, based on FBI briefings, that attacks are not if, but when, citing terrorists from 160 countries entering via the border with potential for cyber attacks, power grid disruptions. I just brought that up, with what happened in San Francisco, the blackout, or armed actions. John Guandolo, former FBI agent and founder of Understanding the Threat, has warned of al-Qaeda plots, including those led by Hamza bin Laden, and U.S. cities like Miami and Houston tied to broader infiltration. I'm not a fan of General Michael Flynn, retired lieutenant general and former national security advisor, but he has described current threats as more severe than pre-9/11 levels, focusing on Islamist groups and calling for aggressive countermeasures. National Counterterrorism Center, NCTC Director Joe Kent testified on December 11th, 2025, that approximately 18,000 known or suspected terrorists were admitted under Biden administration policies, including ties to ISIS and Al Qaeda due to expedited vetting. All right. This includes at least 2,000 from the 88,000 Afghan evacuees under Operation Allies Welcome. Kent linked this to incidents like a December 2025 shooting near the White House by an Afghan national. And I mean, I think that was the one where they shot the 2 U.S. soldiers in the head. I know one didn't survive. I don't know about the other one. I didn't hear whether the other soldier had survived. God bless them and their families. May God be with them in their time of grief and sorrow. But it says here, official data reports lower figures, e.g. hundreds of terrorist watch list encounters. But Kent's claims highlight disputed concerns over immigration as a vector for threats. The NCTC has added 35,000 narco-terrorists to screening data sets and prevented 6,000 entries recently. So they're still trying to come in. And there's 18,000 known or suspected terrorists already here. That's a lot of damage that can be done all over the United States. It doesn't take much. All right. Now, an investigative review of the 2025 New York City mayoral election reveals how political figures and associated controversies could potentially heighten vulnerabilities to major attacks, particularly in symbolic cities like New York during high-profile events such as the Times Square New Year's Eve ball drop. Zohran Mamdani, a 34-year-old Democratic socialist and the first Muslim mayor-elect, set to take office January 1st, 2026. I wonder how they're going to kick that off. won the November 2025 election amid allegations of extremism. Born in Uganda to academic parents and a practicing Shia Muslim, all right, he's a practicing Shia Muslim. Mamdani's platform includes progressive policies like funding gender-affirming care and creating an office for LGBTQIA+ affairs. I thought Muslims didn't like LGBTQIA+. All right. I thought they over in like the Muslim countries, they drop them off of buildings by their ankles, face down. All right. I thought that's what really happens. But you have, let me see if I even have it. Give me a moment here. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. I don't know if I still have it. Yeah, right here I do. Check this out.
Extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that. Ilhan Omar, she's fighting for abortion rights and all the other, my body, my choice. Yes, go do that. But would she have an abortion? Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
So I think that tells you everything that you needed to know. Tells you everything you needed to know what Zohran Mamdani is all about when he is putting out platforms including progressive policies like funding gender-affirming care and creating an office for LGBTQ+ affairs. But critics argue these mask deeper anti-American agendas that clash with traditional values. From an investigative standpoint, Mamdani is absolutely an extremist whose positions undermine American values like individual liberty, secular governance, even though I believe in a Christian government, it should be, but that's not what it is now. And national security, paving a direct path for the promotion of terror. All right, Republican lawmakers like Nancy Mace and Andy Ogles, along with anti-Islamist activists such as Bridget Gabrielle and Frank Gaffney, have claimed Mamdani seeks to impose Sharia law or turn New York City into an Islamic theocracy. I wonder how they're going to do that. Maybe terror attacks, right? Let's do this real quick. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment here. I'm trying to pull this up. I'm going to use the bathroom while I show this to you. So give me a moment here. This is going to be about 2 minutes long, but you need to see this because I think it's very indicative of what is coming. All right, I will be right back after these messages. Hold on.
Hello, sir. It's Agent Hubbard, FBI. And what I propose is that you let these people go, and I'll take their place. I'm going to take your silence to mean that you're considering my offer.
Oh, God.
London, Belfast, Beirut. We're not the first city to have to deal with terrorism. This is New York City. We can take it.
You don't understand. These guys are pros. From the age of 12, they've been dodging people like you.
The situation is appalling. They're attacking our way of life. The president wants it stopped, and there's only one way to do that.
Are you saying the president is prepared to take the necessary steps?
Today, with the invocation of the War Powers Act by the president, I am declaring a state of martial law in this city. We intend to seal off this borough. and we intend to squeeze it.
Do you have any idea what you're starting here?
It's wrong. What if what they really want is for us to herd children in the stadiums like we're doing? And put soldiers on the street and have Americans looking over their shoulders? Bend the law, shred the Constitution just a little bit. We do that, and everything that we have bled and fought and died for is over.
Don't you ever again question my command. Is that clear? I'm not under your command, General. Take a look around. Tell me if you really think that's true.
So if you noticed at the end of that, you know, the concentration camps, all that stuff, I mean, it's pretty indicative, you know, and Trump's been building them like crazy. But hold on one moment here. I'm going to continue going with what I was reading. I'm trying to think where we're at here. All right, so they want to turn New York City into an Islamic theocracy. Mamdani wants to, predicting outcomes like a Muslim takeover or apocalyptic destruction. Analysis of online discourse shows over 2,800 posts promoting Islamization, often linking his faith to fears of jihadist influence or terrorist sympathy. Based on his criticisms of corporate elites and support for sanctuary policies that could harbor threats, at least 20% of his transition committee members have ties to radical anti-Zionist groups that openly promote terror and harass people, with staffers using even anti-Semitic tropes and justifying Hamas-led attacks. There are real threats from leaders like him. We've seen it in other Muslim countries where figures promoting similar ideologies have led to widespread extremism and terror. For instance, in Iran, under theocratic rule, Sharia enforcement has suppressed freedoms and exported terror via proxies like Hezbollah. In the Taliban-controlled Afghanistan, leaders impose strict interpretations leading to oppression and global jihadist inspiration. Even in Western contexts, Muslim Brotherhood networks in Europe, e.g. Austria, acts as conveyor belts for radicalization, infiltrating institutions to promote Islamist agendas that evolve into violent extremism. All right. Potential for polarizing and backlash attacks. His rhetoric incites divisions, potentially radicalizing supporters towards anti-Western violence during events like New Year's Eve, as seen in rising hate crimes, 54% against Jews alone in New York City in 2024. And that's not to mention like where, you know, these guys are randomly walking down the streets and just assaulting women and stuff like that. And it's pretty racially motivated. It is. You know, it says here, foreign-inspired exploitation. As an extremist figure, he could attract groups like ISIS to exploit New York City as a target. And then internal security gaps. Mamdani's stance on defunding police, disbanding hate crime units, and sanctuary policies weakens enforcement, allowing threats to embed and promote terror, echoing how nonviolent Islamists in Europe enabled radicalization. All right, his defiant speeches escalate tensions, heightening attack risks. Overall, Mamdani's extremism directly enables terror promotion by eroding American safeguards, warranting extreme vigilance in New York City. I mean, it's New York. You know what concerns me is that he's going to be mayor come, you know, midnight. When midnight happens, he's mayor, and everything is under his rule at that time. And he's already putting implementing things, putting things into place to bring about this stuff. I mean, New York City's, stick a fork in it. It's done. All right. An examination of recent U.S.-Iran tensions reveal undeniable evidence of an Iranian memo activating, and I've shown this memo on my channel before, the actual memo. I just couldn't find the file to share it with you this morning because I forgot to name it, so it was hard to locate. An Iranian memo activating sleeper cells across America, with cells already embedded and ready to strike at any moment, especially around high visibility events like New Year's Eve, following U.S. military strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites on June 22nd, 2025. The rest of society might forget about the situation, where Iran issued a direct memo pertaining to these attacks on Iranian nuclear sites, even though some say they don't happen, some say they did. I don't care. Iran issued a direct memo circulating through underground channels and confirmed in leaks ordering the activation of these cells as retaliation. Okay, and they're waiting for their moment. And don't think that they're not going to use, the leftist ideologies, because I showed you where that's what they're going to do. That's what they want to do. Okay, and I mean, I can even go as far as, give me a moment here, I'll show you this. Goodness gracious, I can't even pull it up. Hold on. Is, the Albert Pike letter of the 3 world wars. I mean, I had people argue with me that this isn't real because the word Nazism is there. The predecessor to the Nazi imperialism absolutely existed before 1871. But this goes to basically go on to say, when it comes to the Third World War, that's going to be war between the Jews and the Muslims over in the Middle East, and that the rest of the world is going to be divided on that specific issue, whether they're pro-Islam or pro-Jew. All right, that's where they're going to push it. All right, there's people that don't want a part of it. Absolutely. I think America should be outside of that. I support Israel myself, but, I don't think that we should go to war over someone else's battle. I'm just being honest with you. But here's the thing. Okay, they want the world to be divided on that issue, and they want to encourage a fight, a physical, moral, spiritual, and economical attack that will unleash, bloody turmoil and all that stuff. That's their own terminology, and they say that they're going to use nihilists and atheists to do so. And so that's people like your Antifa, LGBTQ movement, even, because those people are being radicalized. We've been seeing it, where they're arming up, they're getting militant, okay, getting ready for a fight. And then, atheists, and whatnot, but the nihilists and things like that, like people like the radical Islam and the extremists and all this stuff, they are pushing this stuff out there. They want a scuffle all over the world between these groups and people who are just everyday average citizens, you know what I mean, that feel the need to protect their corner of the infrastructure that's being destroyed. And I mean, how could you not want to protect it? But I do suggest that you stay home, protect your family, watch over your family, keep them safe, because otherwise you're playing into the satanic hand. The satanic hand wants this fight. They want this, what I kind of dub the civolutionary war. It's not a civil war because there's foreign people that are a part of it. And it's not a revolutionary war because there's, people from the homeland, Americans fighting against Americans. So it's a civolutionary war, in my opinion. And they believe that this is going to bring about this emergence of the Antichrist, is really what it is. And Aleister Crowley even talks about this, where he said that, the world is going to have to be bathed in blood for the new eon to come forward. And so they want this fight, and so don't think it's not possible for these things to happen. But anyway, Iran issued a direct memo circulating through underground channels and confirmed in leaks ordering the activation of these cells as retaliation. All right, hold on 1 second. Give me a moment here. I'm trying to pull something up and see if it has it on there. Even earlier this year, I'll even show you this. Try to share this with you. Even right here, the threat of sleeper cells in U.S. has never been higher. And this was earlier this year, 6 months ago. All right. So, I mean, it's right there, right in your face. Okay. And it says here that these operatives from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, a full-blown terrorist organization, are hidden in plain sight, waiting for the green light to unleash chaos. CBP officials admit the threat is at an all-time high thanks to open borders under Biden that let them flood in. All right. So, I mean, it's all in front of us. It's all in plain sight, of what's going on. There's sickness that's running rampant, and I've shown you in other past documents, with what their plan is, like the SPARS pandemic 2025 to 2028. And this goes on to talk about the spread of this through Thanksgiving, Black Friday, which has happened, and the spread of it through Christmas and New Year's, which turns it into a global pandemic. And then you have other documents like the Deagle report that talk about, hold on, I'm trying to pull it up here. I don't know if it's showing up for you, but it's slow on my end. So give me a moment until it wants to pop up. It's pretty annoying when you have to wait for a document to pop up like this, but it shows the United Kingdom, Ireland, and the United States of America at the top of the list for anywhere from 77 to 68% decrease in population. They want to decrease, these civilized world. They really do. They want to decrease it. They want to destroy it. And that's what replacement migration is all about. I don't think it's about ethnicity at all. I think it's about morals. It's about moral decay. It's about violence. And then you have other documents like the bird flu summit they did last year in October, talking about, and the gray box here at the top, mass fatality management planning, surveillance and data management. That means, they're going to control. That's the censorship. Preparing community strategies, local partnerships, and participation. So, this is where they start to begin to implement the 15-minute cities and all this stuff. And you just saw in the siege where it all connects. I mean, I think I'm trying to juggle this too much, but I hope people are getting the picture of what I'm trying to say here, that it just goes to show what's happening in America. It goes to show what's happening in the world. There's a transition taking place, and it's a dangerous world now. It really is. And Jesus said, don't fear these things. He said, he told us before, he warned us about it. He told us these things would come. And so I'm not going to fear them, but I think that as Americans, as Christians, as citizens, we need to be aware of what's happening. We need to be cautious and take precautions. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. Noah was moved by fear to build an ark for him and his household. And what I mean by that is we should take what we're being, told and take it seriously is all. Just take it seriously. When it comes to sickness, wash your hands. D3, zinc, whatever. You know what I mean? And then I showed you that one earlier around the 41, 42-minute mark. Where I was cleaning my office, this new thing that's come out that people swear by. Go back and rewind to that part where you can see something that you can get that's really going to help you if something really is popping off here. And it is. And I've shown you how even in Beijing alone right now, this month, there's 12 million cases of this stuff. And in America, nationwide, it's only 4.6 million. And so it's almost triple that in Beijing alone in China. So if it's that bad in China and hospitals are literally flooded, morgues are flooded, and crematoriums are overran, okay, I wonder what it's going to get like in America in the next month, because China was ahead of us 2 months. 2 months. So if it gets like that in America, say in January or February, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be a lockdown in March, just like there was last time. I think it was March 10th or March 11th or something like that, where they locked us down in 2020. So it just goes to show where we're at. Just take it seriously, pay close attention. I mean, people are traveling regardless. Like I have a neighbor that's traveling to Arizona. And I just said, be cautious, because she's elderly. I said, be cautious, wash your hands, don't touch your face while you're traveling and you're going through the airport network, wherever you're going, just be careful. And she's like, oh, it's okay. I have masks and I took a flu shot and a COVID shot. Okay. You know what I mean? You literally, like, why would you not want to wash your hands? Like, I don't get that. Just be smart about it. Use common sense. Don't be touching your face while you're at work. Use a Kleenex or something to blow your nose instead of like, spraying it everywhere or whatever, and if you feel sick, stay home, don't spread it around. But, I have other family members that are coming up from down south up to Michigan. And it's like, I told them, I said, I'm being precautious here because I don't want to get sick. I have plenty of friends and plenty of family that have gotten sick. And I know a lot of people across the board just from doing this channel that are sick, that are getting a hold of me in email and things like that and saying how bad it is. And, you know, I talked to my buddy in LA, and it just sounds like he's been hit by a freight train. You know, Sister Tanya, and I won't say the state that she lives in. She's just now getting better. You know, and she sounded really rough, was really concerned for her. It just over and over again, people are really struggling with this. And it just seems, like I said, I've shown you the numbers. I'll show you one more time here before. Hold on 1 second. So like right here, you see the numbers, how they've just shot through the roof. 2021, 89,000. 2025, 414,363. And that's for flu-like disease and influenza. And if you go up to, you know, the COVID-19 stuff, it was only 177. And then in 2022, 72. It got less and less. Then 2023, 8. Then 2024, 4. And yeah, there's 3 now, so it's going back up again. And it's the same thing was happening in China. I think they're going to come at us with multiple things during this season, but they're going to call it one thing. So I hope people are watching. I hope people are prepared. I hope people are taking things seriously, because I think that something's going on right around the corner. All right. So please be safe. Keep focused on Jesus. You know, time is short. All right. Like I'm telling you, God can protect you from all of this stuff. And I truly believe he can. Just be praying, be seeking his face. Those who knock, the door will be open. Those who ask, they shall receive. So make your needs known to God. All right. Take it before the Lord. May God bless you all. May he keep you in these days. And don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.